somewhere beyond the known stars, from the frequency where questions become music, prepare yourselves for the host of this transmission, the cosmic band leader, the dangerous question asker, Mexico Johnson.
All right. We back up in this thing. Let's see how this go then. Let's agree to disagree. Episode 24. Wow. Let's see. All right. So, episode 24, man. Before we get into it, hold on. I see they're trying to hit me with a reason to appeal on the TikTok. They said visibility restricted on TikTok. They trying to hate on us on TikTok tonight, y'all. That's all right. That's funny because like we did have a little bit of motion on TikTok last week. So now they're looking at the stream and saying that they got to restrict our content. Very interesting. That just happened here live on the air just now. We're going to deal with that. We're going to handle that though. I ain't worried about that. Man, before we get into this thing, as I was setting up to go live tonight, there was some unfortunate news that dropped, man. And I want to pay my respects real quick if I can pull it up here. Let me show y'all something real quick. Man. Rest in peace. Producer Tay Keith, dead at 29 years old. I want to take a second here to, again, give my condolences to Tay Keith and his family and all of his fans. Man, that's so tragic, very unfortunate. That boy Flaherty, what up, though? I see you there on the TikTok. We're going to get this thing going here, but man, let's take a second here, just a moment of silence for Tay Keith, man. I know he made a lot of songs that I enjoyed. If he didn't make any songs that you ever enjoyed, just still, young black man gone too soon. It's sad to see that. Yeah, we definitely gonna appeal that thing. I'm not sure why they hit us with that strike right before. It was right as I came on here. They hit me with the thing saying that TikTok can't share my live for some reason. It's all right though. No matter, we keep it G anyway. But that is funny. Like I said, that is funny after last week. Last week was probably one of the best weeks we had on TikTok. So it's funny how that goes. No matter. Last episode, we talked about data. But not just data like numbers on the screen. We talked about data as invisible labor. The invisible job. The value we create without clocking in. The way our patterns and movements and our clicks and our attention and habits and our lives get converted into somebody else's profit. And tonight, on the night before Juneteenth, that same signal moves into an older machine, because before the digital world learned how to extract invisible labor from our behavior, America built itself by extracting visible, brutal, generational labor from black bodies. Before algorithms learned how to turn human life into value, America turned black American life into value, stolen value, unpaid value, inherited value, protected value, and still, somehow, when the descendants of that theft say the word repair, America acts confused. So tonight is not random. Tonight is not just a holiday episode. Tonight is June 18th, the night before Juneteenth. The night before America is asked to remember that freedom was delayed, the news was delayed, protection was delayed, citizenship was delayed. Payment was delayed and repair was delayed. Repair is still delayed. So tonight we are asking, let's get to it here. I got my question card. Hold on. The real Juneteenth. More specifically, which one costs America more? Racism or reparations? Let's enter the signal. Greetings, travelers. I am Mexico Johnson, aka Mexico Coast to Coast, your signal architect for the evening here, broadcasting vibrations from the new organized world. And you are watching Let's Agree to Disagree tonight. Tonight is serious. Still live, still strange, and still late night. Still new organized world, but serious. Because tomorrow is Juneteenth, and Juneteenth is not just a day off. It's not just a cookout. It is not just a federal holiday. It's not just an aesthetic. Juneteenth is a memory, and memory has consequences. Juneteenth remembers that on June 19th, 1865 in Galveston, Texas, freedom was announced to enslaved black people who had been kept waiting after the Emancipation Proclamation. Now sit with that. Freedom was already declared, but the people were still enslaved. The law had changed, but the condition had not. The document existed, but the enforcement had not arrived. And that is why Juneteenth matters so much, because Juneteenth teaches us that freedom is not real just because power says the words. Freedom has to be enforced. Freedom has to arrive. Freedom has to touch the ground. Freedom has to change the condition of the people. And if freedom came late, then repair is late too. America loves to ask what reparations will cost. America loves that question. It says it slowly and nervously, like a parent looking at a restaurant bill that they do not want to pay. What will reparations cost? But tonight, we are asking the question America keeps hiding. What has racism already cost? What has it cost black Americans? What has it cost the country? What has it cost in inventions that never got funded? Businesses that never got capital, families that never inherited land, and neighborhoods that were extracted from instead of invested in. Children who learned survival before wonder. Hospitals that ignored real pain. Schools that train brilliance inside scarcity, and prisons built where repair should have been. And trust. Man. What has racism cost in national trust? Tonight's frame is simple. Reparations has a price tag. Racism has a meter. Reparations is the invoice. Racism is the subscription plan. And I want us to stop pretending the subscription plan is cheaper. Now, for those entering the signal tonight, we are not just asking what reparations cost. We are asking what racism has already cost. And we are asking what kind of country might exist if America finally repaired the wound it keeps trying to manage. Before we go too deep here, when you hear Juneteenth, Cece, what's the first word that comes up for you? Freedom, delay, Texas, America, debt, celebration, memory. Which word do you think?
You're living the main question now. What costs America more, racism or reparations? The frame is clear. Delayed freedom, delayed repair, and racism is the subscription plan.
Freedom, delayed freedom. That's an interesting place for us to be really tonight, to really consider what that means for us. That tells us something, because Juneteenth is all of those things. It is celebration, it is memory, it is delayed freedom. And tonight, I want to argue that if we take Juneteenth seriously, we can't stop at celebration. We have to talk about repair. Now, for our first station I want to stop at tonight, I want to talk about the real Juneteenth. Let's start here. Juneteenth is a Black American holiday. Let me say that plainly. Juneteenth is a Black American holiday. Other people can honor it. Other people can learn from it. Other people can celebrate with us. Other people can come into the room respectfully. But they do not get to overwrite the room. Juneteenth is not a generic Blackness Day. It is not a generic African Diaspora Day. It is not just freedom vibes. It is not a floating cultural aesthetic that anybody can repaint however they want. Juneteenth belongs to a specific history, a specific people, a specific wound, a specific delayed announcement, a specific Black American experience inside the United States of America. And that is why I want to talk about the colors, because I know some people see Juneteenth and immediately reach for red, green, and yellow, or red, black, and green. And listen, Pan-Africanism, knock yourself out. Diaspora unity has a time and a place. African memory, we can't forget it. You know, all of those symbols matter. These histories matter. You know, those flags matter. But every symbol does not belong in every seat. And when we replace the Juneteenth colors with a generic Pan-African palette, we risk disrespecting the roots of the day. The proper Juneteenth visual language is red, white, and blue. And that matters, not because America was innocent, not because the flag never lied, not because Black Americans were treated like full citizens from the beginning. It's exactly the opposite. The red, white, and blue matters because Black Americans have a claim here. Our ancestors were not visitors in the American story. They were forced into the American story. They built and died inside the American story. They were taxed by the American story, policed by the American story, legislated against by the American story, drafted into the American story, and still told to wait outside the promises of the American story. So when Juneteenth stands in red, white, and blue, it's not saying America is clean. It's saying America is accountable. That is the difference. Juneteenth is not America celebrating Africa. Juneteenth is Black Americans forcing America to remember what America did. Juneteenth is not an escape from America. It is a claim against America, a claim inside America that says, you did this here, you delayed freedom, you extracted labor here, you denied citizenship here, you built wealth, inherited the benefit here, and the repair question is here too. If you're just joining us, the signal tonight is Juneteenth, racism, and reparations. Juneteenth is the memory, racism is the wound. Reparations is the repair question America keeps trying to dodge. Now, Cosmo, he was having some issues last week. He wasn't ready to talk. I want to see if I get Cosmo in here this week. Cosmo, what you think about that so far?
That's the note. Mexico, not escape. Claim. Juneteenth is America being made to hear the bill in the same room where the debt was created.
Hold on, I could barely hear you there. Can you run that back for me, bro? I could barely hear you.
That's the note. Mexico. That's the note. Mexico, not
There it
escape.
is.
Claim. Juneteenth is America being made to hear the bill in the same room where the debt was created.
Okay, there you go. Say it with your chest then, Cosmo. Glad to hear you joining us this week. Okay, so that's what's up. We got Cosmo and we got CC in the room with us. But like Cosmo said, Juneteenth is America being made to hear the bill in the same room where the debt was created. I think that's fair. I think that's where we at. I think that's what we're dealing with tonight. So, how about this for the chat? Chat, when you hear people flatten Juneteenth into something generic, do you think that's coming from ignorance, marketing, discomfort, or avoidance? You can drop one of those words in the chat if you think about it there when people try to turn Juneteenth into just a Pan-African red, yellow, and green kind of celebration. Is that coming out of ignorance? Maybe out of discomfort? Maybe out of avoidance? I do think a good amount of it comes out of ignorance. Like I saw one post online from it was somewhere on TikTok, talking about a local Juneteenth celebration happening here in Toledo, Ohio, and it had a poster with red, yellow, green colors on it. And I politely commented that the proper colors for Juneteenth are red, white, and blue, and I put the proper flag in there too so they could see that. Actually, I got a flag here. I should put one up on the screen. So I'm sorry I ain't showed y'all one yet. If I bring in the TV here, you should see what that red, white, and blue Juneteenth flag actually looks like. That's what we're talking about there. See the red, white, and blue there. We're going to talk more about the history of the flag here. I want to keep this rolling. So I see we got a couple people there in the TikTok now coming through, even though we got hit with the strike on TikTok tonight. I still see a couple people there dropping likes. I appreciate y'all. All right. So why this matters. If Juneteenth is only a celebration, America can sell it. If Juneteenth is only a vibe, America can decorate around it. If Juneteenth is only a holiday, America can give people a day off and keep the structure untouched. But if Juneteenth is memory, if Juneteenth is evidence, if Juneteenth is a record of delayed freedom, then Juneteenth starts asking for something. And what it asks for is repair. And before we go too far down that path, I do want to show y'all this piece here, just giving a little background on the history of the flag here.
Coming up, but there's a big problem because most people think Juneteenth colors are red, black, and green. But that's not Juneteenth. That's Pan-African. And I know this might sound wild, but stay with me because by the end of this, you're going to look at Juneteenth completely different. Juneteenth is not an African holiday. It is an American holiday. It is the day that enslaved people in Galveston, Texas, found out they were free right here on this soil in this country. And Juneteenth became an official United States federal holiday in June of 2021. So Juneteenth actually has its own flag, and most people have never seen it. It's red, white, and blue, with a star in the center and a burst around it. The star has a dual meaning. One, it represents Texas, the Lone Star State, and it also represents the freedom of foundational Black Americans across all 50 states. And the burst around it represents a new beginning, the birth of a new day, and a fresh start for newly freed people. The same colors as the American flag, because the message is clear. Our freedom is American history, not borrowed from somewhere else. A foundational Black American who is a community organizer and activist named Ben Haith designed the flag in 1997 because he believed that Juneteenth deserved a symbol that told the truth about what the holiday actually is. This Juneteenth, don't let corporate America tell you how to represent our foundational Black American holiday. And let me know in the comments, did you know this already?
All right. So that breaks down the history of the day and specifically the history of the flag and specifically why those colors are the colors of the day, the colors of the flag. I'm glad we could cover that. I'm going to get the TV out of here for a second before we move on to the next station then. If we get into station 2 tonight, this is where it starts to get interesting. So, now we're talking about the invoice versus the subscription plan. That boy Tony in the chat, I see you. How's it going, my boy? I'm doing good, man. Doing real good, actually, man. I've been vibing and I've been building and I've been creating and I got a lot of cool stuff on the way for you guys. We're going to talk more about later. But appreciate you coming through and chilling in the chat with us. We got an interesting conversation tonight. I'm going to keep it rolling here. So now we got to talk about the money. Because people love to bring up the money like the number ends the conversation. They say, reparations, how much is that going to cost? And I want to be clear, the number is big. It should be big. The number is not big because black Americans are greedy. The number is big because America was thorough. Chilling, bro. I hope all is well. Yeah, for sure, man. I'm good, bro. I appreciate you, man. I'm good. Now, America was thorough. The theft was thorough. The labor extraction was thorough. The violence was thorough. The land theft, the legal exclusion, the housing discrimination, school inequality, the medical neglect was thorough. The wealth denial was thorough. The inheritance theft was thorough. So yes, the bill is big. A small bill would be the suspicious thing. When serious reparations frameworks are discussed, we are not talking about a symbolic apology money. We are not talking about a coupon. We are not talking about a museum plaque in a press release. We are talking about trillions. 10 trillion. 12, 14, all the way up to 18 trillion. I've seen some estimates reach up to. I see some people coming through the TikTok. What up, though? Estimates for the reparation bill reach all the way up to $18 trillion, depending on the model, depending on what gets counted, depending on whether you are talking about closing the racial wealth gap, stolen labor, lost inheritance, land, housing, education, interest, or the compounding effects of generation after generation of blocked wealth. Let me say this carefully. The tab is still open, and the interest is still accumulating. Because the harm did not stop when slavery formally ended. The machine changed shape. Slavery became black codes, and then black codes became Jim Crow. Jim Crow became redlining, and then redlining became disinvestment. Disinvestment became predatory lending, and predatory lending became foreclosure. Foreclosure became neighborhood extraction. Neighborhood extraction became school funding problems, and then the school funding problem became a labor market problem. The labor market problem became a health problem. The health problem became a life expectancy problem. Then the life expectancy problem became an inheritance problem. And then when America turns around and asks, why are we still talking about this? It's because the meter is still running. Quick reset for everybody entering the room. Tonight's frame is this. Reparations is the invoice. Racism is the subscription plan. The invoice looks expensive because you can see it. The subscription plan looks normal because America has been paying it forever. Now let's talk about that subscription plan. Racism is expensive. Not just morally expensive, not just spiritually expensive. We're talking economically expensive. Racism requires systems. It requires enforcement and propaganda in prisons. It requires underfunded schools and segregated housing and sick communities. It requires wasted genius and wasted fear, and it requires resentment. It requires America to sabotage part of itself and then act surprised that the whole country feels broken. That is the cost. And the trick is this. America puts a price tag on reparations and then hides the price tag on racism. There was a city analysis in 2020 that estimated that if major racial gaps for black Americans had been closed 20 years earlier, it would have added $16 trillion to the U.S. economy. $16 trillion. And if those gaps were closed at the time of the report in 2020, Citi estimated $5 trillion more could be added to the U.S. GDP over the next 5 years. Now, let's be precise. That is not exactly the same thing as a reparations plan. It is not saying write this one check and the whole thing magically balances tomorrow. But it proves the deeper point. Racism is not free. Anti-black inequality is not free. Refusing to repair black America has already cost this country trillions in lost output, lost business, lost housing, lost education, lost investment, lost national capacity. So when somebody says reparations are too expensive, the answer is compared to what? Compared to a country that keeps wasting black genius? Compared to a country that keeps managing poverty instead of repairing theft? Compared to a country that keeps paying for consequences of racism while pretending the cause is too controversial to name? This is why I say reparations will pay for themselves. Not in a cheap gimmick way, not like the Treasury writes a check on Monday and gets an exact receipt back on Tuesday. That's not what I mean. I mean, repaired people build, repaired families invest, repaired communities stabilize, repaired neighborhoods create businesses, repaired schools produce more genius, repaired citizens participate with power instead of surviving under pressure. Repaired people innovate and own and create and hire and heal. A country with repaired people is richer than a country built on managing unrepaired wounds. So no, reparations is not a government handout. It is not wealth extraction. It is not charity. It is not a gift. It is a future building investment. It is America paying down its oldest debt so the whole country can stop bleeding from the wound. CC, give me this structural read here.
You're in the money station now, and the argument is holding. Reparations sounds expensive until racism is measured as an ongoing subscription plan. The key phrase is compared to what?
Racism is measured as an ongoing subscription plan, and it is more expensive than you think it is. That's exactly it. Repair gets a scary invoice, while racism gets hidden in the monthly charges. Chat, I want to ask this plainly. What do you think America counts more honestly than? The cost of justice or the cost of injustice? You can drop a word in the chat or in the comments below, or you can say neither. Here's the line I want to stay with us. If justice sounds expensive, just wait until you calculate the cost of injustice, because racism has a bill too. It's just broken in the monthly payments. And Black Americans have been paying first and worst. But the country has been paying too, and lost brilliance, lost trust, lost stability, lost invention, lost future. And that is the economic argument. But economics is not the foundation, justice is. Reparations is owed whether America profits from doing the right thing or not. But the truth is, America would profit from doing the right thing. Even the selfish argument points towards repair. Now, we're going to go one more level here. I got station 3 here, where I want to wrap this up, where we want to call this no more permission slips. We're not begging anybody for anything. The next step here is enforcement. So, now we need to talk strategy, because every time reparations enters the room, somebody tries to drag the conversation into the same old swamp. Somebody wants to argue whether slavery was really that bad, or somebody wants to say that their family came here after that. Somebody might want to ask why people today should have to pay for what people did back then. Somebody might want to bring up every other group in history. Some people might want to say, what about poor white people? Somebody might even want to say, what about me? Somebody wants to make Black Americans spend another generation proving that a crime happened, proving that harm continued, proving that the debt exists, and proving that the repair is reasonable. And I want to say this plainly. I do not think arguing with white supremacists about reparations is a good use of time. I just don't. Because at some point, you have to know the difference between a person asking a question and a person trying to waste your life. There are serious questions about reparations. There are implementation questions, eligibility questions, distribution questions, legal, institutional questions. Questions about cash. Questions about land. Questions about housing. Questions about education. Questions about business capital. We got questions about health and questions about federal responsibility, questions about state responsibility, questions about private institutions that profited from slavery and segregation. Those are serious questions. Those belong at the table. But white supremacist opposition is not a serious question. It's not a moral philosophy. It's not brave truth telling. It's not fiscal responsibility. It is delay. It is distraction. It is the ideology of theft, asking the victim to keep proving the receipt. I see you there, Unc. What's good with you, though? Appreciate you coming through. See you in the chat there, Unc. Tell me something good with you. Tell me what's new. What's happening? Keep it rolling here. White supremacy does not get a veto over Black American repair. Let me say that again. White supremacy does not get a veto over Black American repair. We do not need racism to agree before justice can move. We do not need every bad faith bigot to nod their head before we organize, legislate, build, demand, and repair. Movements do not win by convincing every person committed to misunderstanding them. Movements win by building enough clarity, enough power, enough coalition, enough strategy, enough courage to move forward anyway. So for the late travelers entering the signal, we are in station 3. The question is no longer just what reparations cost. The question is who keeps getting permission to delay repair? And the answer is simple. White supremacy does not get the chair the meeting. Now, I also want to deal with another argument because I have heard people say reparations is just Black people begging their oppressor for money. I have heard people call it Stockholm Syndrome. Like Black Americans are confused, like we are asking the oppression to love us. Like we are standing outside the door with a cup in the hand waiting for mercy. No, that's not what this is. A creditor collecting the debt is not begging. A debtor refusing to pay is the one making excuses. Reparations is not Black Americans asking oppression to love us. Reparations is Black Americans saying, this nation made a debt. This nation inherited the benefit. This nation still claims authority. It taxes us. It polices us. It counts our votes. It asks for our labor. It asks for our loyalty. It asks for our sons and daughters in wartime. It asks us to believe in its flag, its courts, its currency, its democracy, and its future. So no, you do not get all the benefits of governing people and then act like repair is charity. That is not begging. That is enforcement. That is citizenship. That is how real Americans claim the future. Not by waiting for permission, by organizing, by voting, by legislating, by suing, by building, by demanding, by enforcing the future we are determined to live in. And if anybody is begging in this arrangement, let's be honest, it's not Black Americans asking for repair. It's the politicians coming back every election cycle asking Black people for votes, asking us to save democracy and asking us to save the courts, save the party, save the country, asking us to stand in line and asking us to organize and forgive and be practical and be patient and be loyal. And then when Black Americans ask, well, what is the Black agenda? What is the repair plan? What is owed to the descendants of American chattel slavery? Suddenly, everybody gets philosophical. Suddenly, everybody gets nervous. Suddenly, the policy has to benefit everybody. Suddenly, the claim has to be watered down until the people owed disappear inside the general public. No, targeted harm requires targeted repair. And I want to talk about that political trick because we have seen it. Somebody gets asked about reparations, and instead of answering the reparations question, they pivot into general uplift. They talk about working families, opportunity zones, talk about small businesses and middle class tax credits. A rising tide lifts all boats. And listen, broad policies can matter. Universal programs can help people. I am not saying those things are worthless, but universal uplift is not the same thing as targeted repair. And reparations forces America to admit something that rising tide politics tries to hide. What if the problem is not just the tide? What if somebody put holes in our boat? What if somebody stole the wood? What if somebody charged us rent for the dock? What if somebody passed laws saying that our boat could never leave the shore? What if somebody watched us sinking for generations and then said, good news, the tide is coming up for everybody? A rising tide does not repair a sabotaged boat. A rising tide might drown the person whose boat was damaged. Repair means you fix the boat. Repair means you name who damaged it. Repair means you name who benefited. Repair means you do not hide a specific debt inside a general program and call that justice. There's a Kamala Harris quote that people bring up in this conversation, and I want to be precise about why it matters. The issue is not simply, will you ever do anything that benefits black people? That framing is too small. The issue is that when politicians are asked about black specific debt, they often translate the answer into general benefit. And in that 2019 exchange, when the conversation was around reparations, Harris moved the language into broad policy and said she was not going to say what she would do to something that would only benefit black people. No. But reparations is not just doing something that benefits black people. That's the wrong frame. Reparations is paying a debt owed to black Americans descended from American chattel slavery. That's different. That's more specific. That's more serious. That is not a vibes-based benefit conversation. That is a repair conversation, and this is the political pattern. Politicians want black votes to be specific, but black policy needs to be universal. They know exactly where to find us during campaign season. They know the churches, they know the barbershops, they know the radio shows. They know the fraternities and sororities. They know the cultural references, and they know the civil rights language. They know the photo ops and the pain points. They know the turnout math. But when black Americans ask for specific repair, suddenly specificity becomes dangerous. Suddenly we are too narrow and too divisive. Suddenly the answer has to be for everybody. Black votes are specific. Black history is specific. Black harm was specific. Black repair must be specific. Cece, what's the structural read here?
You're in the political pattern section now. Specific debt keeps getting translated into general benefit. The anchor is clear. Targeted harm requires targeted repair.
Targeted harm requires targeted repair. It's that simple. If we keep it rolling then. Okay. See, broad help can still matter, but broad help is not the same as targeted repair. A universal program might raise the water, but reparations fixes the boat. Chat, I want you to answer this one. When politicians ask for black votes but avoid black specific repair, what word comes to your mind? Delay? Extraction? Cowardice? Strategy? Betrayal? Go ahead, drop the word in the chat there. I know we got a few people. We got, 2 on the TikTok, 3 on the Tube, 1 on Kick. Somebody drop a word in the chat there for us. Let's see what the thing feeling like tonight. Let it breathe. Here's the strategic point. We are not here to convince people committed to misunderstanding us. We are not here to beg white supremacy to develop a conscience. We are not here to make justice palatable for people who benefit from the wound staying open. And we are not here to let politicians universalize a specific debt out of existence. We are here to build the future. And if you say you support black Americans, this is where support becomes more than sympathy. Do not tell us to soften the claim until racists feel comfortable. Do not tell us to wait for a better time. Do not tell us to hide the debt inside a policy that makes everybody else comfortable. Help the work move forward. Help make repair politically, culturally, economically, and morally unavoidable. That is support. Support is not sympathy. Support is helping move the work forward. Now, we zoom out again. The question of the night, asking people to think about what's actually more expensive for America. Is racism more expensive, or is reparations more expensive? I think as we take a real tally here tonight, the truth is being laid out that the bill for reparations is very high. It is a very expensive tad. Again, estimation is going all the way up to $18 trillion and rising as we speak. But when you really look at it, what America pays for in racism goes beyond that. And when you talk about the compounding effect of the accumulation of this energy over time, I think it's more than a good idea to get these reparations checks out the door ASAP. Now, what happens if America actually heals? I want to end this station by imagining something, because we talk so much about the wound that sometimes we forget to imagine the repair. And if we cannot imagine the repaired country, we will keep managing the broken one. So let's imagine. Imagine a country where Black American children can inherit more than caution. Imagine Black children inheriting capital, land, trust, safety, time, room to be strange, room to be brilliant, room to fail without the whole family falling through the floor, room to experiment, room to build, room to rest. Imagine a country where Black neighborhoods are not treated as extraction zones, not over-policed and overfunded, not studied and then abandoned, not branded as up and coming only when someone else is ready to profit. Imagine neighborhoods repaired with capital, ownership, schools, clinics, transportation, parks, grocery stores, libraries, schools, labs, and actual democratic power. Imagine Black genius funded before it gets copied. Imagine Black inventors with seed capital. Imagine Black farmers with land. Imagine artists with ownership. Imagine Black families with inheritance. Black businesses with credit. Black students with debt-free education. Black mothers with medical care that believes them. Black fathers with time. Black elders with comfort. Black children with wonder. Imagine the prisons America did not have to build because the abandonment never happened. Imagine the police budgets America did not need because communities were not starved in the crisis. Imagine the political resentment America could release if it stopped using Black repair as the fear button. Imagine the art, the technology, the schools, the businesses, the neighborhoods, the democratic trust. Imagine what America has already lost by keeping Black America unrepaired. A repaired Black America will not weaken America. It will reveal the America racism has been blocking. And that is why the opposition is so intense. Because repair is not just about money. Repair changes the imagination of the country. Repair says the descendants of the enslaved are not a problem to be managed. We are a people to be made whole. Repair says the wound is not eternal. Repair says delay is not destiny. Repair says the future does not belong only to the people who inherited the theft. Repair says America does not get to keep calling itself unfinished while refusing to fix the foundation. Cosmo, Let's see here. Can you give me the rhythm of a prepared country?
Now the song turns from wound to possibility. We are a people to be made whole is the refrain. Let the imagined repair country breathe around it.
Yeah. We are a people to be made whole. That's the refrain. I like that. That's it. We're not talking about forgetting the thunder. We're not talking about worshiping the wound or keeping the time for people who finally get. We are keeping time for the people who finally get to dance without running. Red, black, and green is about identity theft. Okay, you know what? I'm looking at the comments here. That looked like a comment that was supposed to happen earlier in the stream. I see you, Unc. If you're watching the stream behind the live chat and you commenting live, your comments is coming in late, but I appreciate you dropping a comment there for me still. All right, let's keep it going. For late travelers entering near the close, here is the signal. Juneteenth is not just a celebration, it is a memory of delayed freedom. Racism is not free. It is the cost America keeps hiding, and reparations is not begging. It is repair, it is enforcement, it is the future that Black Americans are determined to live in. With that, we're going to take a short commercial break here, and then we'll come back to do this week's version of the Resonance Report. Thank you everybody for watching, and stay tuned. We got some more stuff coming here right after the commercial break.
The trash tape. Tremendous resilience affects stupid humans.
What kind of name is that? Doesn't matter.
You seen this?
I'm trying not to.
The trash tape. Available in dumpsters everywhere.
Welcome back to Let's Agree to Disagree Tonight. Signal is locked. Let's continue.
All right, we back. I think it's that time. Let's go ahead and make it happen. This is this week's version of the Resonance Report. All right, this is the Resonance Report, your weekly briefing on the tools, tremors, and tectonic shifts moving through the AI age. This week, the signal is AI is no longer asking to be tried. It is asking to be governed, hired, funded, and built into the walls. Anthropic's Dario Amodei says frontier AI is moving faster than the policy process was built to handle. He is calling for stronger public rules, including mandatory testing and the power to block dangerous releases. So, the first story is about asking for rules. The next question is whether those rules can reach the public systems where AI can actually be in reality. That takes us from model labs into democratic infrastructure. OpenAI also published a policy agenda focused on safety, workforce transition, energy, and democratic accountability, meaning the builders are now saying the machine needs brakes. But brakes only matter if someone can actually reach them. And that brings us from model power into public power. Now, the election layer is already active. OpenAI laid out its 2026 election safeguards. The focus is voting information, cyber defense, AI transparency, and misuse response. Tech Policy Press also notes the deeper risk. AI campaigns can now become cheaper, faster, and harder to trace, meaning the question is not whether AI will touch politics, it already has. The question is whether citizens can still recognize the room they are standing in. And once AI becomes a public reality problem, the build out underneath it stops being invisible. Google announced a 50 million skilled trades push tied to AI infrastructure. The goal is to help train more than 300,000 American workers, meaning The AI future still needs hands. Data centers need power, power needs workers, workers need training, and training needs time. The cloud has a body, and that body is becoming political. Let me see here. I made a mistake. We're going to keep it rolling. All right. Google DeepMind released a new AI control roadmap. The idea is simple. As AI agents get more autonomous, they need monitoring, limits, alerts, and maybe even emergency shutoff systems. The meaning is bigger than safety paperwork. The industry is admitting that useful agents may also become harder to supervise. And once the machine can act, the next question then is not just intelligence, it is permission. ChatGPT moves towards scheduled work. Now, from there, the permission question is not staying inside research labs, it is moving into the tools people already use every day. OpenAI updated schedule tasks in ChatGPT. Users can now manage reminders, recurring work, and monitor tasks from a dedicated schedule page. Some tasks can check the web or connected apps and notify you when something changes. That means the assistant is becoming less like a box you open and more like a quiet system running beside you. A tool that waits is different from a tool that answers, and that brings us from convenience into dependency. AI is becoming a scientific coworker. That takes us into the science story, because while AI is still learning to wait and act for users, it is also learning to work beside scientists. OpenAI published a new research on a near autonomous AI chemist. The system helped improve a difficult medicinal chemistry reaction, and OpenAI paired that with a new benchmark for life science AI. The meaning is not that scientists disappear, the meaning is that discovery work is becoming more collaborative with machines. The lab is no longer just benches, people, and instruments. Now it includes models that can plan, test, revise, and keep moving. But while AI is proving that it can discover, governments are still deciding who gets access to the strongest systems. The Anthropic fight shows policy without a map, and the next turn brings us from the lab into the state. Anthropic spent the week fighting to restore access to its newest models after the Trump administration used export control authority to restrict them. The legal logic is still unclear. Experts are calling it a warning sign. AI governance is being invented in real time, sometimes through sudden intervention instead of stable rules. The meaning is sharp. Powerful models are becoming strategic territory, not just products, not just subscriptions. Territory. And when something becomes territory, the state moves in. The next story makes the infrastructure physical. Once AI becomes strategic territory, it also becomes physical territory. Arizona became a live test case for physical costs of AI. Data centers are pushing against power grids, water limits, tax incentives, and heat. Google is using less water-intensive cooling at its Arizona site, but the trade-off is more electricity. That is the hidden body of the AI age. Every instant answer has a location, but every model has a footprint. Every miracle still plugs into a wall. And if the infrastructure is becoming physical, the media layer is becoming unstable. News is becoming platform reality. And the final story brings this all back to the people trying to understand the world while all of this is happening. The Reuters Institute's 2026 Digital News Report says social media and video networks are now the most widely used sources of news globally. AI chatbots are also entering the news journey. At the same time, trust has dropped across many markets. That is not just a media story. That is a reality story. People are not only asking what happened, they are asking where did I hear it? And who shaped it? And can I still tell the difference? Where are we now? We are in the handoff phase. AI is moving from answer machine to task system, from task system to operating layer, and then from operating layer to infrastructure. And every layer raises the same question. Who sees the action? Who approves it? Who pays for it? Who benefits from it? And who gets protected when the system moves faster than the room? Why this matters for LATDT? This is the room that LATDT was built for. Not panic, not worship, and not argument for its own sake. Orientation. The world is not getting simpler, but it can get clearer. And clarity is what lets people choose consciously before the machine quietly chooses for them. Here's what we want to watch for next. We're going to keep our eyes on the approval layer. The biggest AI story may not be which model is the smartest. It may be where the human checkpoint survives. In the app, in the workplace, in the lab, in the government, the greed, in the feed. That is where the next argument lives. That is where the next decision lives. Let's step into the signal behind the noise. This has been the Resonance Report. All right. Well, that just about is going to do it for our episode this week. I think we're doing pretty good, man. Pretty good on time. That wrapping up episode 24 puts us at the end of arc 2 in our 3 arc season, right? With season 2 being planned to be a 36 episode season. Like the episodes 1 through 12 was arc 1. 13 through 24 is now arc 2 complete, and I'm very interested to bring you guys that last final arc for Let's Agree to Disagree season 2 here with the last 12 episodes. That's going to be episode 25 through 36. Until then, we got some fun stuff coming for you guys. Got some more games coming. If you already know, you can check us out there at the bridge where you can play Signal Runner, and you can drop your email there to actually enter the signal and become a part of the New Organized World. I can drop that in the chat for you guys here so you know where to go. I also got a link in the description here on YouTube. That is subscribepage.io/thebridge, and that is the with the capital T. Subscribepage.io/thebridge. That's where you can go to join the signal. That is also where you can go to play our first game developed by my game studio, Resophonic Games, Signal Runner. It's pretty fun, and if you have a spatial computer, you can actually play Signal Runner in spatial mode. We showed that off here on the show a couple weeks ago. Might play some more Signal Runner later. We'll see. Maybe like after the credits, we'll go into some Signal Runner. That might be fun. All right. So tonight, on the night before Juneteenth, I want us to hold the question differently. Not just what does reparations cost, but what does racism cost? What does delay cost? What has denial cost? And what has America lost by keeping Black Americans unrepaired? And who benefits from convincing us that justice is too expensive while injustice keeps charging the whole country every day? The real Juneteenth is not just a party. It's not just a flag. It's not just a day in June. The real Juneteenth is the memory that freedom can be delayed when power benefits from its delay. And if freedom can be delayed, then wages can be delayed, land can be delayed, citizenship can be delayed, safety can be delayed, inheritance can be delayed, repair can be delayed. But delay is not our destiny. Reparations is not charity. It is not guilt. It is not begging. It is not a handout. It is not asking oppression to be kind. Reparations is a debt claim, a justice claim, a future claim. Reparations is targeted repair for targeted harm. And yes, the bill is large because the theft was large, but racism is not cheaper. Racism is just built differently. Racism shows up in our prisons, in our hospitals, in our schools, in our neighborhoods, in the lost wealth, lost innovation, trust, and in the children trained to survive instead of dream. What's up, Lynn? and in adults who spend whole lives proving their humanity to systems that already know what they stole. America keeps asking if it can afford reparations, but the real question is, how much longer can America afford racism? How much longer can this country keep paying interest on denial? And how much future has already been sacrificed to avoid paying the oldest debt? A repaired Black America is not a threat. It is not a burden. It is not a special favor. It is trapped American potential finally being released. And if America is serious about healing, then Juneteenth cannot remain only a memory of delayed freedom. It has to become a demand for delivered repair. So tomorrow, celebrate, eat, laugh, gather, wear the colors, and celebrate the ancestors. What up, Shay? Hey, I see my girl Shay in the chat. That's what's up, though. Enjoy the day tomorrow. Tomorrow is a holiday. I want you to honor the day. But do not let America reduce Juneteenth to a cookout while the invoice stays unpaid. Oh, we miss you. I miss you guys too. Oh, Shay, don't make me start crying here with my all right. I appreciate you, Shay, though. That's what's up. Do not let America wave the flag. Excuse me. Do not let America reduce Juneteenth to a cookout while the invoice stays unpaid. Do not let America wave the flag while dodging the debt. Do not let America praise freedom in June and fight repair for the rest of the year. The real Juneteenth asks more from us. It asks us to remember. It asks us to calculate and organize and imagine. And it asks us to enforce the future we are determined to live in. Questions for you to consider till next week? What would America become if Black American repair was treated as a national priority instead of political impossibility? Who benefits from convincing us that racism is cheaper than reparations? What future has America already lost by refusing to repair the people it robbed? When politicians ask for Black votes, what Black specific repair agenda should they be required to answer for? And what does Juneteenth mean if freedom is remembered, but repair is still delayed? That's all we have time for tonight. The future is complicated, the signal is noisy, and none of us are fully optimized. And still, we listened through the static, we found the pattern, and for one more night, the signal survived. I'm Mexico Johnson, your signal architect for the evening. And this has been Let's Agree to Disagree tonight. about to get up out of here. I don't got a post-credit scene or nothing for y'all. I'm just taking a second to wind down with the folks still on the live with me. What'd you think of that episode, CC? We made it to the end. What'd you think? How'd that go?
You're in the closing return question now. The episode is landing on, what would America become if Black American repair was treated as national priority, not political impossibility?
We already closed it out. This is the post credits here now. It's time for me to turn the stream off. I still got 3 people sitting there on the YouTube. I'm just curious what y'all up to. I bet my uncle's still there watching behind the live. And then if Tony's still there, Tony probably done fell asleep by now. And if there's one other person, I wonder who that is. That's all good. I'm excited to keep this thing going. And for the late people who are still here at this point, I got a surprise announcement for y'all then. I got some music, man. I got some music I've been working on that's coming soon. I've been waiting to say that for a long time. Man. I ain't making no major announcements yet because I still got a lot of work to do, but the concepts is coming together fast, and I'm excited for the way this music is sounding. So if there was any reason to stay on the stream this long, that's what I got for you. Some new Mexico Johnson music on the way soon. I'm looking forward to bringing that to the fans there. Until then, man, y'all take it easy.